Ladies and gentlemen, and creatures of the old world, and indeed the mortal realms, welcome for the welcome return of the Andy and Rem Show. It's the Andy and Rem Steel Show on a Tuesday night. It's the Andy and Rem Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and everything else that is cool. We're talking about Warhammer Fantasy. It's easy to learn the rules. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on a Tuesday night.
It is indeed a welcome return, ladies and gentlemen. But first of all, what were you plucking away at there, Mr. Rem? What kind of instrument was that this week?
I thought I'd give the audience a treat of my Fender Telecaster thin line. And then just before the show started, I realised I didn't have a guitar lead for it. So you couldn't hear the full force of rock.
So that wasn't even the full force.
Well, was it loud?
No, think how good that was, folks. Imagine how much better it could have been if you had a lead attached to it.
Oh, wow. Then you'd be hearing, solos galore.
That would have been all the way up to 11, I'm sure.
You betcha.
So, people are starving out there. Not starving in terms of food, starving in terms of Age of Sigmar, juicy content for them to sink those teeth into. Because not only has it been a bit of a barren landscape, but this show last week didn't actually happen. For a number of reasons, most of them related to A-list celebrity kind of conflicts and different activities that, of course, we had to be engaged in different places. Although for me, it was purely illness related. I wasn't on a red carpet somewhere. I don't know about you.
Well, there was a number of things. For me, I have to admit, it was a little bit of burnout for me. Just needed a little bit of a break. Do you know what I mean? So it's good to see other people starting up shows and stuff. It's awesome. But once you've done it for like over a year, it starts to. Do you know what I mean? It's like a part of your evening every week. You know what I mean? It's almost like I used to go karate every week, and it was really cool at first, and suddenly it became like a thing I had to do that you have to contribute to and give more and more to. So I'm not saying it's a chore, but especially because there's not much going on in Age of Sigmar, I think that's what kind of set me back a bit. Plus, of course, the major fact that Total War is totally dominating my life.
It does seem to have taken over your life. And you're right when you say there hasn't been a lot going on in Age of Sigmar, so much so that we're pondering putting the show out once every 2 weeks for the possibly the foreseeable future, until maybe there's a surge of releases that demand more regular content, because there isn't that much to cover, really, is there, on a weekly basis?
Now, we did notice that most of the main Age of Sigmar, in fact, all of the Age of Sigmar podcasts, pretty much just do a once a month thing. Not too much more than that. I mean, there was Bad Dice Daily, but that's kind of Bad Dice bi-monthly now. And so there's only maybe like Warhammer Weekly that goes out every week, but they obviously cover 9th Age as well. So because we don't do that, and if there's not much going on in Age of Sigmar, it's kind of like, and then so we put like cool things into the show that is kind of like hit or miss sometimes, which I love.
I think it's always hit, to be fair.
It's always hit. Maybe it's a miss for some other people watching, but it's always a hit for us. But, I think there's going to be a bonanza avalanche of Age of Sigmar stuff coming soon.
It's quite possible. Right, I think it's been long enough now. Let's see who we've got in the chat on the fabled active users list tonight, shall we? We have got the likes of Andrew Wade, Bazooka J Rambo, Dark Adrenaline, Demon _Lizard _from _outer _space, Streaming Cyborg, Fluffy Dread, Gloom Dready Gaming, Graham Rigg, Christopher 82, Mickey Jenver, Paul Bentley, Rob Lloyd, Sweet, Ruhark, Rural Goblin, Skeleton Flower, Slackdorf, The Soul Assassin. I think that is everybody right now. So, and apparently your new catchphrase is Banana Avalanche.
Really?
According to Mickey Jenver.
Could be worse, I guess.
It could be. So we've got a lot to cover. But first of all, what have we been doing these last 2 weeks? I can tell you right now, I haven't been doing that much at all because I was quite ill. I think what it came down to was I had a bit of a cold for about a week. And that was causing me to get more sleep than I normally have. And when I get too much sleep, I get really, really terrible headaches. And the only way to cure those headaches is to get a nap, which is like a really weird vicious cycle because you're like temporarily curing the headache by going to sleep and then it comes back worse later. So after a few days, I was kind of able to get myself staying up longer, which ultimately got rid of it. So I think I'm pretty close to operating at 100% now. The only thing I've actually managed to do is spray this guy in gold.
I actually bought him.
So look at that.
That's really nice. It's a bit blurry there. There you go.
It is quite blurry. Let's get it. There we go. That's nice and focused, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks pretty cool, doesn't it?
Just sprayed in gold so far, but he's still looking pretty sweet already. And of course, he's got his noble Griffhound as well, which doesn't have any paint on it yet.
You definitely need really strong wrists to hold that that little thing on a stick, wouldn't you? You know what I mean? His wrist must be aching.
It must be. Look at his. I'm really worried about this thing snapping off because it's very, very thin around the hand joint there. So I'm thinking if anyone accidentally drops like a metal beast man on it or something.
What if he drops that and then it kind of cracks and all the kind of magic-y stuff pours
all
out?
the anti-magic-y stuff leaks out of it. I don't know, maybe it's like Ghostbusters. He sucks all the magic into there like the Ghostbusters with the ghost vacuum. And then if it cracks, all the magic would just escape.
So, Andy, back to your headaches. Have you ever tried going for a brisk walk?
A brisk walk?
Yeah, in the Northern Pennines where you live, get some nice, fresh, sheepy air.
Well, being upright was the main problem. So a brisk walk may not have been the best thing.
I forgot to mention as well, partly due to my absence, was the fact that my band had a big single release. So I was going up and down the country doing radio shows and live promotion for it. Just a small thing.
Considering this is probably the biggest audience you've ever broadcast in front of, would you like to tell people the name of that?
The song? Yes, go watch it on YouTube. It's had 6,000 views up to now. You won't even be the 6,001st person. Uncle Frank, Fountains, and you can see me wearing a mask playing guitar. Uncle Frank, Fountains.
The name Fountains, of course, comes from this show where we are indeed fountains of charisma.
Yeah, and I'm getting ready to do some big shows. We're supporting a band called Reef, which is like a surfer rock band, doing a big show in Leicester here. Then we've got some gigs in London and a big New Year's Eve show in Leicester. So it's going to be a headline show. Then we're going to go on a tour around England in January. So just a small thing that.
Exciting times ahead.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you've been burning the candle at both ends, practicing non-stop for all this upcoming musical avalanche. Or in fact, have you indeed been playing 700 hours of Total War Warhammer?
As the daily timekeeper of the hours I rack up playing it, I can't argue with that. I've left it on the whole time since I bought the game.
How much electricity are you using there?
I don't really care. I just pay a set amount each month. So I'm on one of those things where you just kind of pay a set amount. So
you know that global warming thing? I think you're looking at the guy responsible right here.
Hey, it's totally worth it. I'm saving the old world. Emperor Karl Franz. The entire human factions have been annihilated, apart from Estalia and Tylia and the Border Princes. And together with the dwarves, I have completely annihilated the vampire counts. I'm making my way up north, destroying Varg and the evil northern chaos tribes. Meanwhile, to the west, the vampires of Mucilon have annihilated Bretonnia and are encroaching upon my lands. So I'm enjoying that, and I'm playing as Volkmar the Grim, and I've just managed to get his war altar, which is really funny, seeing it like cart around the battlefield.
Is this your second campaign now?
It's my second. My first one was the dwarves on normal level, and that took about a week. And now I'm on the Empire on hard level, so it's taken a lot longer. So yeah, it's very, very addictive.
Yeah, I was playing as the dwarves first, managed to take over the entire world. All the other factions pretty much left me alone until it was too late.
Yeah.
Because I'd already got too powerful. Once you get past a certain tipping point, you're able to just amass like big blocks of 3 or 4 really powerful armies and just steamroll everything. And I got to that point. And then the other armies, like the humans, because I was like trespassing on their land so much to get to my actual enemies, they eventually thought, you know what, we don't like this guy trampling on our lands. Let's attack him while he's up invading the Chaos Wastes.
Well,
And they paid the price for that.
You see, the difference between the dwarves and the humans are the dwarves have specific settlements they can occupy, basically in the mountains. So if you're a human faction, you can't conquer. You can conquer the dwarves, but you can't settle in their encampment, so to speak. So there is a way of balancing that. Excited! 2 weeks' time, we've got the Wood Elf release. It's going to be awesome. You can play as 2 legendary lords. You've got Durthu, the Tree Man Ancient, and you have, guess?
Who is the other one?
He's got hooves and a horn and a bow and
I think
hat.
There's not many people you could be talking about here.
It's Orion. So there's Orion as well. And that should be really, really fun to play them. I've seen some images of the war dancers and they look great. And you get wild riders. I don't know.
Eagles flying around everywhere.
Yeah, you get the hawk riders. I don't know if you get sisters of the thorn yet, but yeah, it's really fun. And yeah, it's just flipping hours of fun. The thing is, it's like a turn-based game. So you're like, right, I'll just finish my turn off, and then I'll like stop there. And then you think, oh, well, I wonder what's going to happen next. And then it gives you another set of problems to deal with every single turn.
You think you're about to quit, and then the enemy do something that you need to counter immediately. Or suddenly your main settlement is under siege, just as you're trying to leave the game.
Before you know it, another 45 minutes has gone by. So.
At least. I actually, after conquering the world with the dwarves, I moved on to the old VC vampire counts, and it is an absolute nightmare because you're just surrounded on all sides by people that hate you. Like just trying to enter diplomacy with dwarves, for example, and the first thing you hear is, "Get that filth out of my chambers," or whatever.
Have you tried giving them gifts of treasure?
I try it, but the chance of success with the negotiation is always low, no matter what I offer them. They give me peace treaties when I'm powerful, and then as soon as I get into a fight, like the Empire, I think, wait a minute, the vampire counts are engaged on that front now. We're going to invade them, even though we only just signed a peace treaty with them 2 days ago. We're going to invade them now.
You've got to give them the money for free, and not ask for anything in return, and it turns into like a gift. That can help a little bit.
Also, they keep doing the kind of "here you go, just kidding," I like to call it, where they'll let you have a settlement. They don't actually raise it or take it over. They just attack it and then withdraw. And you think, well, it's been a few turns now. They haven't attacked me, so it's pretty safe. So you start construction queues in there again, and then they just steamroll it again and then pull back.
And
it's like they're just
you wasted all that money as well.
Because they want you to build up the wealth in the settlement so they can then raid it and then steal everything and then let it build. They're like farming.
After playing the dwarves and the Empire and the vampires and the orcs and goblins being your most hated enemies, it's really hard for me to consider playing as those factions now. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Been my sworn enemy for the last month. So, but you know, it's a great game. It's and of course your legendary lord characters have their own quests to fulfill as the game goes on, and I've got to a point where some of them are really, really hard.
Get to this point at the top of the Chaos Wastes in 5 turns.
Yeah.
How?
Or, you know, assassinate one of the Orcs and Goblins' special characters, and you have a 10% chance to do it, and you can never do it in 3 turns.
You have to start getting your assassins leveled up early, don't you?
Yeah, but then they get killed.
They do, because the enemy are always really hot with their assassins and their characters roaming around, aren't
and
they?
They have loads of them, don't they? They have loads of those characters. So yeah, all this is kind of taking me away from Age of Sigmar. And every time I play computer, I've got, you know, boxes full of miniatures. I've got a box full of spirit hosts, of Orcs and Goblins, of Silver Tower stuff, of what's that game? The four Chaos Warriors fighting in the thing.
Gore chosen.
Yeah, so I've got the Gore Chosen models to paint as well. So, it's all yeah.
Well, you will be able to channel those expertise pretty soon, because people will be interested to know that we are planning some kind of video-based excitement in the world of Total War Warhammer. Perhaps what I would like to do is a campaign where we're actually facing off against each other, last man standing. So, of course, you'd have to ally with all the other nations around to try and get some assistance. But I think I would like to crush the Rem Empire.
So, I just lost my train of thought then. Yeah. Don't know. Great game.
It is. Right. Shall we get to the meaty goodness now?
Go on then.
Because we've got a lot to show people. Let's start with this that was actually confirmed as being totally fake recently. So here we go. This popped up a couple of weeks ago as rumored the new Age of Sigmar starter box. It's been revealed to be a big fake. The artist that actually created this image came clean in the end and admitted it was false, and that he didn't mean to hurt all those people's feelings.
I like the fact he did it, and it's wonderful. I would argue it's even better. It's like his artwork's kind of more crazy and squiggly, but it's definitely up there.
The art is amazing. What tipped me off that it was fake is just this phrase here: Lords of Light and Champions of Change. Something just didn't feel right about that to me.
Yeah.
I wasn't buying that part of it. The artwork is amazing, though.
I think we should have more of this stuff, man. It's great.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because one that's totally not fake is this one here.
Oh, no. That's the same thing. No, I'm looking at the page. Hold on. Sorry, yeah.
Look at this. Wow. He's back. It's been confirmed. The old Nagash is coming back, and he's got his own starter box. Totally not thrown together in 5 minutes on Photoshop.
No, if you just erased the base, it might have been a bit more convincing.
Possibly. Maybe I should have put a round base on him, shouldn't I? But no. Nagash, the old Nagash is not coming back. Don't get too excited, folks. However, I can actually now confirm that the new starter box has been revealed, and here it is.
Oh, wow.
Age of Sigmar. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only bacon.
It actually looks like some of the 1990 GW box sets, that.
Yeah, I think this image was put together by Mickey Jinber, and those pigs belong to Dreddy.
Are they like giant pigs?
They're not that large, actually. They're fat, but they're quite small. Yeah, so anyone who's a big fan of pigs, and if you'd really like to see Age of Sigmar become a thing, first of all, what you should do, you should watch the Porkening Saga, the series of narrative battle reports that I've been doing with Dreddy, and the latest chapter was put up this week, which is about 42 minutes of Age of Sigmar battle report goodness, featuring lots of bacon.
Nice.
So there's that. And look at this.
Okay.
Coming this December, Battle Forces. There's no Photoshop shenanigans going on here. This is 100% legit.
I was really excited when I saw these, and then I just thought, oh no, it's kind of like 50. It's like, yeah, it's going to be Stormcast. Yeah, it's going to be Khorne Bloodbound. I mean, it's like we've got loads of box sets for them already. So Sylvaneth, yeah, good. Iron Jaws, yeah, great, and you get a giant in there as well. But what about Fire Slayers, right?
Yeah, there should be a Fire Slayers box. That's the kind of thing that would get me interested in purchasing Fire Slayers, because this Stormcast box, as nice as it is, most of it I don't feel like I need. I don't need Liberators. I don't need the Knight Azeros. The rest of it I could do with, but I don't think it's worth it just for them, to be honest.
Well, what was talking about, £100?
Well, if they're £100, that would be very, very good value, because that guy is ridiculously high in price already. Yeah. I think just him and the Dracoths aren't too far off £100 on their own, I'm pretty sure.
So what are you thinking? Maybe it's 120?
I'm not sure. If anyone has seen the confirmed pricing on these, then let us know in the old chat.
I mean, the Bloodbound, it looks like a really good deal, because you've got some... they're not just blood reavers. You've got some cooler stuff in there as well. Sylvaneth, you've got the Tree Man in there. You've got Dryker. You've got 6 Kurnoth Hunters. and you've got £50 worth there, maybe even £60 worth of kind of land units. You've got the spite, what are they called? Spirit spites, spite reavers, something like that. They cost like £30 or something for 5 of them, didn't they?
Indeed, they're definitely going to be good value. No matter what price they put on them, there will be a saving because there always is in these new boxes they're doing. So if you don't have any models already, then it's a good starting point. But it's about time we saw the Fire Slayers in one of these.
So Fire Slayers, what else would you like to see?
Well, what else is out there that we haven't got a box for already?
Well, I would like to see Volkmar the Grim and loads of flagellants. And some, those bold guys with the armor on and the hammers.
That would be interesting.
Because that's not been done before. And I was going to say, what I forgot to say before was, when you play in Total Warhammer, whatever faction you play in, you kind of like want to buy the miniatures. What happened to me? Now I all of a sudden want to buy loads of Empire stuff.
That is definitely true. Bazooka J Rambo confirms they are £100, these boxes. So that looks like very good value to me.
Definitely, man, because that's a 20% discount at your local independent store means £80. So now looking at that Stormcast, that's a damn good deal. Do you get any Liberators in there?
Yes, you do. Even more value can be had with the Knight of Xeros who is in there. If people want to know an easy way to convert that model's spare parts, so you can have the Knight Venator and the Knight of Xeros from one kit using only a prosecutor, then I've got a video on that floating around somewhere. If you just search my channel for that, you can get some red hot money saving tips there.
And the Khorne Bloodbound, if you got the Age of Sigmar starter set and you got this Khorne Bloodbound box, you'd have a terrific army then, wouldn't you?
It certainly looks like it. There is a lot of beef in there, shall we say. Looks like you get quite a few heroes there. Right, next up.
Boom.
Yeah. So, first of all, before we even address the content of the image, as you know, What the Hell Is That has been a popular feature of this show since its original inception, which I'm happy to give you credit for being the innovator of What the Hell Is That. I feel maybe I took it to the next level, but you definitely were the spark that created that raging inferno that it turned into.
However, one of many ideas in the Remington think tank.
We take 1 week off, and look who comes steaming in to rip off our idea. No, they don't call it What the Hell Is That? They call it What Am I Looking At? How blatant a rip-off can you get?
Well, it's listen, imitation is the best. No, what's the thing? Imitation.
The sincerest form of flattery.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So I just thought they could have done a better job. That's just like a close-up. It's like one of your What the Hell Is That? It's not like one of my kind of creative ones, like look who's standing outside Games Workshop, and then I've like put loads of monster spaces on it.
Well, this week's is going to be very creative. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, look, Andy, looking at that, how do you know that's not 40k?
Well, I have been talking to some resident 40k experts, and they all believe that it's Age of Sigmar for one reason. That little dwarf face there that you can clearly see is much more reminiscent of the old dwarf kind of symbols and icons compared to the old squat, which was apparently very different to that. So all those people are leaning towards Age of Sigmar, and the Duardin have been so heavily rumored recently over the last year, maybe. Mm-hmm. Surely it's got to be them. This has got to be some kind of big golem or something. Surely it must be.
It could be Skaven. There's no like warp green on it, but there is a giveaway. Look at the bottom right.
Yeah, how would you explain that little dwarf head? It's clearly a dwarf. Oh. Look at the beard.
Can you zoom in a little bit? Maybe.
Well, let's
just zoom in. Let's have a closer look at this baby.
Look at that. That is clearly a dwarf's head.
I don't know.
It's so much like a dwarf kind of shield.
It's going to be another Libera. It's another Stormcasting, isn't it?
It can't be. It's such a dwarf head.
Well, okay. Underneath the central silver round thing, the nose, if you like. What's that?
That's a beard. There's a little mustache bit there, and then the beard lines going down there. If you look at any dwarf shield or a dwarf symbol on a banner or anything, they have this. It's got to be dwarves.
Right, well, now move the mouse to the left bottom. What's that bit? It's kind of like a tongue sticking out in gold. What's that?
That's just part of the beard.
No, 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 no. In the middle of the whole... Yes,
Oh, there.
Yes.
Well, let's get a full look at it here. I think that's probably a leg or an arm sticking out.
See, I've been thinking it's the whole thing is the tip of some kind of maybe a zeppelin or some kind of machine that kind of digs underground or a giant sphere ball with dwarves inside or like an underwater thing like they used to have in the 19th century where you just go in a big metal ball. With
So you think the dwarves are going to have a kind of Bioshock look to them?
Yeah, I guess. But people have been saying, like, mentioning steampunk. It's very steampunk.
It is. It's surely got to be, and surely we're not going to be made to wait much longer now that this image has already been leaked.
And
surely.
And is that a drain or is it an air vent?
I would say it's some kind of vent.
Hmm.
Demon_lizard says it's a fishmen underwater ship.
So you think it's definitely not Skaven? Because look, I mean, there's a bit of blue rust on those screws there.
I don't think that's enough rust for it to be kind of verminous. I think that's just normal, everyday rust.
Do you think this is part of a big miniature?
I think it probably is. I don't think it's zoomed in really far on like just a tiny shoulder pad. I think this is a quite a decent sized model. This here. That's my view. Because if you look at some of the detail, like this little dwarf head, it's so small that I think this is a larger miniature we're looking at here.
Demon Lizard says Tom from Vince Venturella and Warhammer Weekly identified the panel on the left being the same as on the gyrocopter.
Well, if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know, I don't know what does. It's got to be the Duardin. And the fact that we've seen this image means that I am holding onto my money now. That potential Stardrake fund is going to wait until we see what this is.
Now, are you going to hold on to your dwarven miniatures? So do you think they're going to keep the sort of quite new dwarves that they brought out, i.e. the Ironbreakers, the Longbeards, and...
Well, they could quite feasibly keep those in the same way that the Black Orcs have stuck around for the Iron Jaws.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think they could just completely change the overall aesthetic of the dwarves and leave behind even the recent stuff, if this is anything to go by. I mean, things like your Iron Drakes would clearly fit in still, but I don't know. There's only one way to find out, really, isn't there?
What do you think? It could be maybe a scenery?
I don't know about that.
No? Okay.
No, I don't think so. I think this is a unit of some kind. I'm not willing to eat my hat if it is a piece of scenery.
So when are we going to find out?
It doesn't say. But let's see what it says here.
See you next week for another game. Look, it's like a regular feature, isn't it? Look.
Well, apparently, what am I looking at? It might become a regular feature, but it doesn't have a specific date on when this is going to come out.
Why did they ask the inventor of the concept?
Because they are dirty rip-off merchants.
Am I not good looking enough? Maybe. Do I use too vulgar language?
They already ripped off your dusting technique and brought out that dusting video. So anyway, we're going to strike back at them with our what the hell is that later. So people can look forward to that. Now, what's this next link here? Zangors. Now, you may think, well, that's 40k, but wait a minute. Zangors were in Silver Tower. What is this madness? Here's a question for a Silver Tower enthusiast, as you obviously are. Are Zangors demons?
Or beastmen? They're both beastmen, demons. But
so what are they doing in 40k if they are beastmen?
Beastmen with beaks. Well, that's a good point.
And are they going to be a dual kit so that you can take off the pistol and put more slightly fantasy-esque weaponry on them and use them for Age of Sigmar as well? Or is it purely 40k and Age of Sigmar Zangors are just being completely left behind for some reason?
Well, I'm not sure about these. Are these like chainsaws? Chainswords?
Yes, chainswords and some kind of pistols.
Feels a bit, doesn't seem to fit with their aesthetic to me. I mean, the weapons on the Zangors in Silver Tower are really ornate. A bit too ornate for beastmen as well. So I guess the Lord of Change has sort of blinged the beat men out.
Yeah, so why has 40k hijacked the Zangors? That's what I want to know.
Unless it's a dual kit.
Rob Lloyd Sweet says they come with basic hand weapons. So does that mean it's definitely a dual kit, though?
And do the demons in 40k need Zangors? Or need a, more Zinch?
Well, they are doing lots of Zench stuff in 40k. There is a ton of releases coming out for them. So, I don't know. It's a tough one, because we thought they were purely a fantasy thing. It'd be like if they brought out some new 40k orcs and suddenly they had scuttlings. That's the way I look at it. So very, very strange indeed, and we'll be keeping a very close eye on these Zangors to see if they are dual purpose or not.
Barrett Musselman says the Silver Tower actually hijacked Zangors from 40k.
Is that a fact?
There you go, I didn't know that.
Let's see, Bazooka Rambo says, according to GW, Zangors were in the Realm of Chaos books. So they could be quite an ancient thing then that's just popped up in 2 different games because they are just tied to Zench, who is, of course, common to both of those universes, unless they're one in the same. Conspiracy theorists out there. Interesting, at least. Right then, next. Blood Bowl is out.
Oh, yes. Okay, now you're a veteran of Blood Bowl, aren't you?
I wouldn't go that far. I did play a few games of it, though. Not exactly an expert.
So this looks great, man. £65 box set starters. You get orcs, you get humans. As far as I know, it's still set in the old world.
It is, yes. So I wouldn't hold my breath on seeing a Stormcast Blood Bowl team anytime soon. Although it is kind of a little world of its own. It's not just strictly old world as such. Right. It's kind of a spin-off universe. So it wouldn't be totally out of the question for them to throw in something weird.
There was Blood Bowl novels, though, wasn't there? If you look at his trainers, they've got the 2-stripe, but they didn't go. I would have gone for the 3-stripe Adidas look, but obviously they didn't want to get in trouble. These are cool. Do you think they're transfers on the?
I would say the shoulders probably are, yes, and possibly the numbers as well.
Do you think there's a department at Games Workshop just for shoulder pads?
I think by now there definitely is.
That's a wicked model, that is.
That is very nice.
So do you know the names of the kind of positions in Blood Bowl? Is he some kind of catcher?
I am not 100% sure on that. It's been a while since I've done anything Blood Bowl related. I played 1 or 2 games of the PC version of Blood Bowl.
Yeah.
But I'm not enough of an authority on it.
So are you going to get it?
I don't know, because I've got a lot of things that I should be doing rather than this, but it's very, very tempting, isn't it?
Now, these orcs look a bit more serious, don't they, than the kind of comedy orcs of GW? Do you know what I mean? They look a bit more squat and bulky.
They're fairly gritty looking, I suppose, aren't they? They're not quite as comedic as you would think, because Blood Bowl is quite a silly game.
Yeah. Now, you got a couple of sort of Black Orc linebackers. It is like, basically, it's strange because GW is an English company. Why have they chosen like American football?
You would have to go back to when the game was first created and ask that question, I think.
Yeah, why not like rugby or cricket?
Who knows?
Or polo. There's a game. Instead of Blood Bowl, Blood Polo. Polo Ball. Yeah.
Polo Ball.
Yeah, it's like you're on a horseback, or you could be on a war boar. It could be fun. No?
Yeah.
Flying Pegasus?
Let's go with that. Well, apparently, it's a combination of strategy, tactics, and absolute mindless violence. Blood Bowl is the classic game of fantasy football. Yes, that's right. Blitzers, throwers, catchers, and linemen.
I've just sold a halfling team, haven't I? An original metal halfling team.
There is a halfling team fully painted in this house, but it's not mine. It's Halfling Pete's.
Yeah. So we've got 2 factions. There's also Skaven, right, available?
Yes, there certainly are Skaven available. The Skaven Blight Scramblers.
Wow, look at the tails. That seems like a new kind of feature of Skaven now.
Indeed, they are gripping balls with their tails.
They look great.
They do. I'm looking forward to seeing a new dwarf team. I think those would be my first choice.
You can convert these to Age of Sigmar easily, can't you?
I think you probably could, yes.
He could be an assassin.
Very, very tasty. Very curly tails on these guys.
So what factions would you like to see coming out? Do you think there's going to be dwarves?
I think they'll probably do all of them. I'm not sure if they'll go back to halflings. I would like them to, but I would assume that they'll do all the major old world races.
And £20 for a whole Skaven team. That's really good, I think.
Sounds pretty decent if you ask me. And there's the one with the ball, gripped.
Yeah, I think you're going to see special players coming through as well. So like orcs and goblins, they're going to have maybe a troll in there or an ogre.
I would assume so.
Mercenary players.
Right.
Going to be lizard men? Seraphon?
I'm sure there probably will be. Now, before we move on and get off the screen share for a minute, there's one more thing I want to look at very quickly. Now, I am going to do a separate video because this isn't Age of Sigmar related, but there is something very amusing I want to show you on this Kickstarter for the Ghosts of Gaia, I think it's pronounced. Now, this is from Bad Squiddo Games, previously known as the Dice Bag Lady, which is a line of female miniatures. But the one thing I want to show you now, because like I said, there will be a separate video on this at some point. The one thing I want to show you right here is the fact that it has guinea pigs with guns.
Guinea pig.
You are stunned, Mr. Remington, by that concept, are you not?
Well, if you're talking guinea pigs, you've got to start talking badgers. Because I met a white witch once, and I said to him, what's my spirit animal? Thinking he's going to say, obviously tiger or panther. No, he tells me I'm a badger.
Not a guinea pig?
No, a badger. But that's meant to be a good thing.
Have you ever kept rodents?
Never. No. I used to have rodents in my flat, but they weren't welcome.
Oh dear. Well, there you go, folks. Guinea pigs with guns. And there's some other miniatures there as well. But I just thought guinea pigs with guns, just hearing that would get people clicking on that non-stop. So let's get off the old screen share for a second so they can see our wonderful faces again for a minute. Because the next thing we've got planned is, what the hell is that?
Oh, wow.
And I think, are you prepared to start strumming away as the people... I'm going to prime them a little bit first. So since GW have clearly ripped off what the hell is that, they haven't even offered us as much as a word. They didn't send us any kind of message beforehand. They certainly didn't ask our permission to steal possibly our most successful segment ever. So in a bit of cheeky retaliation, I have taken a picture of Duncan's face and I have plastered 3 facial features from other miniatures, as if he's a miniature, from 3 different miniatures onto his face to turn him into a kind of hideous, deformed creature. If you can identify all 3 of those miniatures that are found on Duncan's face, then you will be the winner and you'll be added onto the list for the next potential prize. Okay, give us that theme tune now that I've primed the audience.
What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it a mercenary ogre or a thundercat? What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Only Andy and Remington know. Yes, sir. What the hell is that? 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 Only Andy and maybe Duncan and Remington know.
Well, look at that. Is that the Duncan that we know and love?
It looks like Duncan in Friday the 13th.
It's kind of a zombie Duncan almost, isn't it? So there are 3 miniatures there. They are Age of Sigmar miniatures that are currently available from GW, just so you know. So there's no ancient stuff on here.
So I like it, Andy. I like it a lot.
You think people are going to get this? We've clearly got some kind of hideous eyeball replacing one of his. He's got a brand new nose and a mouth with some very big teeth.
That's pretty cool. So you've got what, 3 miniatures there?
Yes, 3 different miniatures on Duncan's face.
Well, I'd have to say the mouth looks a bit sort of, well, not. I wouldn't say that it looks like a order mouth.
Yes, you would think forces of order would keep their teeth in better condition, wouldn't you?
Yes, and the eyes definitely don't look like forces of order. More like maybe forces of death, maybe.
It's definitely a very disturbing eye, isn't it?
It's quite hypnotic, that eye.
And there is a reason that it has those kind of stringy bits coming out of it. That's part of it's part of the eye, pretty much.
And the nose, could it be a giant's nose? Don't know.
Who knows?
There's no hair sticking out the nostrils, so maybe it's not a dwarf.
If there was any hair, it could have been photoshopped off, though.
Aha.
With high-tech computer wizardry.
Interesting. We should post this on the GW page, shouldn't we? If no one
Maybe we
gets it.
should. Maybe we should post it up there and say, "What am I looking at?"
Do you know what? Back in the 80s, White Dwarf magazine used to have a whole page, and it was like this kind of tree, and every branch of the tree had like a fan's head sort of cut out from a picture, almost photoshopped onto it with different things that they think. It's pretty cool. Proper fanzine stuff, that. Does anyone remember that? Or was it just my imagination?
What I remember would be in like a football magazine or something. You would have the perfect player, and it would have like one player's foot and another player's leg, and that kind of thing. It'd be like a hideous mishmash of body parts.
Dice Miniature Painter and Rural Goblin have got some answers here. Rural Goblin says a man-eater mouth, a long-beard nose, and a necromancer's eye.
I can tell you that none of those are correct.
Okay. Dice Miniature Paint Guy says a dwarf, a necromancer, and an ogre went into a bar.
That seems to be the common guess at the moment. Do you know what I'm going to do? I think because it's so difficult, I think if you can identify which faction the body parts are from, and you can't just list the factions, you have to be specific to the body part. Like, for example, you would have to say nose and then the name of the faction that the nose is from. So you don't have to get the exact model, just give me the faction. So I don't mean Grand Alliance, obviously. You can't just say, oh, it's a death nose. You would have to be more specific than that. So let's see. We've got some guesses, but people aren't guessing on all the body parts. You only need to get that faction, though, folks. I think it can be done quite easily. You're going to have to put them all in the same reply, though, to avoid us scrolling up and down to find it. Fluffy Dread has only guessed 2 of them. Let's see. Homeeasy20 says Ogre Mouth, Beastmen Eye, Empire Nose. You have 1 point.
Wow. Gary Waddingham says Icebrow Hunter Mouth, a nose of a Duardin, and an eye flesh eater.
I'm going to give you 2 points for that.
Wow.
Mr. Waddingham. It's a tricky one. It's that eye is throwing people off, I think.
Martin Johnson has got one answer. It is Glotkin Eye. Chaos.
I can tell you it is not a Glotkin eye. That's all I'm going to say about that. Dice Miniature Paint Guy is stuck, apparently.
So Gary's currently winning.
Hold on, there's something I've got to point out here. Apparently, Homeeasy, it's supposed to be Homsey, but he spelled his own name wrong when signing up. Well, that is an amateur move, isn't it? That's like something Remington would do.
He's stuck with it now.
I could imagine you having like a dating site profile, Remming and Steel, for instance. Come on, folks. Oh, we've got a guess here. Andreas Goodmanson, Icebrow Hunter Mouth, Nose Duardin, Eye Bloodbound. Okay, I'm going to give it to Andreas Goodmanson.
Ah, well done, Andreas.
Right, and now I'll show you which miniatures they are from. Look at this.
Oh, wow.
Exalted Deathbringer. It's his eye. Look at that. Look at that hideous eye. I even included the scars on it.
It's a quality miniature, that.
Then Volkite Berserker nose, unmistakable. Big, beefy dwarven nose. And then Ice Brow Hunter mouth. Very distinctive, missing tooth. Well, so Andreas Gudmundsson is going to go on the list shortly. So, Mr. Rem, I think we've managed to blitz through all that stuff pretty quick, so I think we've got time for the next thrilling installment of everyone's favourite game, haven't we?
Oh, yes, we do. You know that. It's where this thing was invented. You saw it here first. Nowhere else. But here is where you'll find the Forest of Rem.
We need the theme song.
Oh, okay.
Something about boys becoming men.
In the Forest of Rem, in the Forest of Rem, where boys become men, in the Forest of Men, the Forest of Rem, Forest of Men. The men become boys in the Forest of Rem. Rhymes with 10 and Big Ben.
You don't want to run into Big Ben in the Forest of Men, do you? Okay. To set the scene. Well, it's difficult to sum up the previous several episodes in a very short time, but I'll try and give you the briefest rundown possible. So, Mr. Rem, the travelling bard, his mentor was killed. He's investigating. Accidentally killed numerous people on the way picking up clues. He found himself inadvertently crowned champion of Slanesh. He has a flesh wand for a big toe. Then he found himself inadvertently crowned a champion of Zench. He now has a little bird head that talks to him occasionally, sticking out of his arm.
Whose name is Stuart.
Yes, he then inadvertently became a champion of corn. But he's not a very important champion of corn, so he only has a tiny little horn sprouting out of his forehead, which he could probably just do some damage if you headbutted someone, but it's not that impressive. You're not going to be charging across a field opposite a rhino and expecting to do some damage with this thing.
So I'm kind of like an Ungor.
Yeah, you've got like an Ungor kind of horn length going on here.
All right.
Not very impressive at all. And last time out, you were about to pursue some pygmies to their camp, if I recall. You were given the choice of pursuing the pygmies to their encampment or going for the cave marked on your map. And I think you were going to go after the pygmies.
You betcha.
Okay, then. So you're going to try and follow the pygmies. Would you like to follow their scent, or would you like to follow the footsteps and broken leaves?
Ooh. She'll go for the footsteps and broken leaves.
Very well. Roll the die.
The dice is rolling, and it's a dice app. So no ones, please. Here we go. 4.
4, that's all right. Young Remington travelled on foot for many hours, picking through the undergrowth, examining closely to find evidence of tiny, hairy footsteps, taking particularly close attention of broken branches and disturbed leaf mounds, until several hours later he came across a clearing containing the carcass of a wild beast with what appeared to be pygmy teeth marks all over its hide. How do you choose to proceed, Mr. Remington? Will you investigate the carcass? Will you have a nibble on it, perhaps, to sustain yourself?
Well, I saw an episode of Bear Grylls where he's in the desert and he gets inside a carcass for the night. So if it's getting cold and dark, I might well do that. It could form some sort of shelter.
You wish to climb into the half-eaten carcass?
Is it nighttime?
It's closing in on nighttime, yes.
Yeah, I think I'll spend a couple of hours just gutting it a bit and then, and then get inside it. And then its smell will hide my scent.
Very well. Roll the die.
Okay, here we go. Remington! It's another 4. My favourite number. It's my lucky number, that.
Okay, and this chapter will be known as "And Remington thought they smelled bad on the outside." Very well. Remington snuggles himself down into the warm, welcoming embrace of internal organs and meat, basically. Remington has wrapped himself in his own meat blanket.
What kind of creature is it, by the way?
Well, you didn't stop to investigate.
Oh.
It's just some kind of wild beast. It's very hairy, and it's a little bit on the pungent side, the aroma. It's quite large. It's so mangled and covered in pygmy teeth marks, you may not even be able to identify it.
It's good enough for pygmies, it's good enough for Remington.
If it's good enough as a pygmy snack, it's good enough for Remington to sleep in. Let's keep that in mind, folks. Okay. In the middle of the night, Remington is disturbed by the sound of crunching bones and sinew being torn, flesh being parted, with big, sharp teeth dripping onto the forest floor. Something is feasting on the carcass that you have made your bed inside, Mr. Remington. To determine what kind of creature it is, I think I'm going to ask you to roll the dice now.
Remington! Oh my, it's a 4 again. 3 4s.
I think there's something wrong with this app. Do you want to have another go?
Do you know what? I'll just roll another one. Okay, try
Keep
again.
going until it's not 4.
It's a 1. It's a 1.
It would have to be a 1, wouldn't it? Okay. As Remington peers through a couple of ribs in the carcass, he clears away a little path for his eyeballs from the flesh and sees a gigantic foot in front of him. He then sees an immense, hairy, pink, filth-encrusted hand reach down and pluck a large hunk of flesh from the carcass and pull it back up out of sight. There is a lot of danglage going on from this large creature. It appears to have a large pelt around its waist and a long loincloth reaching almost to the ground, made of fur. The size of the foot would lead you to believe that it is at least giant-sized. How would you like to proceed, Mr. Remington? Keep in mind that you are currently inside a carcass that's being eaten. You are armed with, I think you still have a mandolin. You found a new mandolin. I don't think you managed to destroy this one yet. And you have, of course, all your chaos blessings that have been bestowed upon your body and mutated you.
I shall roll out of the carcass and give him a good kick in the ankles, like a floor sweep.
Will you kick him with your regular foot or your foot that contains the flesh wand of Slaanesh?
Obviously, the flesh wand's leg sweep. Let's do it.
Okay, roll the dice.
Remington! It's a 3.
It's a 3. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. As you squelch out of the carcass, you look up and see that, yes, it is indeed an ale guzzler gargant.
Oh, yes.
Flesh drips from its gaping mouth onto the ground right in front of you. And you look down and see the carcass is half the carcass it used to be. This giant has really gone to town on it. As you attempt to sweep the giant's leg with your flesh wand of Slaanesh, your wand, you kind of scratch his toe with it. You haven't really done any damage, but he now knows you're there. You hear the creak of gigantic bones and muscles as the gargant peers down towards young travelling bard Remington. He remarks, "Hey, you look tasty." How will you respond?
I'm going to just distract his hunger with a song from the Remington fabled songbook on my mandolin.
I think, instead of rolling the dice, I think you should actually play a real song now to the giant.
Okay, I'll try. Okay.
And then we're gonna ask the audience to grade this song out of 6, which will determine your dice roll. Okay, folks? So as the song is going on, feel free to grade it out of 6 in the comments.
Should it be in a minor key or a major key?
I think we'll leave that up to you.
I'll go minor, always. Big guzzling gargant, don't eat Remington. Big guzzling gargant, don't eat me, please. Big guzzling gargant, don't eat Remington. I'll taste like lime's wall cheese.
Is that the extent of the song? Okay, I'll give people a few more seconds to get those scores in. At the moment, we have a 6, and then we have several 1s, actually. So you're looking at an average of about 2 at the moment.
People aren't saying 1. Yeah, YouTube, newbie, thank you for that 6. I thought it was a great song.
I'm not counting all of Newbie's 1s that came after his 6, by the way.
I think he'd be kind of transfixed by the beautiful tones of my voice and mandolin. Yes,
okay. It's looking like it's about average, actually. There were a few 1s, but some of them were Newbie. So I'm going to say that it's a 4. So he is quite distracted, actually. He seems quite persuaded, and he looks down at you, and he's got a kind of a friendly look in his eye. I suppose if you're quite good at singing, maybe you could be my travelling music box. He then reaches down with his large, meaty, filthy hand and grips you around the waist.
I know where I'm going.
He lifts you into the air to around his waist level. He then takes his other hand, the loincloth around his groinal region. He withdraws slightly. It seems as though you were about to be stuffed into the giant's pants. You still have some time if you want to affect this outcome.
Well, I think if I screamed loud enough, the pygmies might hear me. And being the pygmy champion, they might come to my rescue.
So you're going to try and scream as loud as you can?
Yes.
Okay, roll the dice. Let's see how loud that scream is.
Pygmies to me! Remington! It's a 6.
That is an incredibly loud scream. In fact, it's so loud that the giant actually drops you onto the ground. And if it weren't for that flesh wand of a toe, you would probably have rolled an ankle at least. But that manages to make an impact on the ground first and kind of cushion your fall, because it's the flesh wand. It's kind of floppy at the moment, so it's formed a kind of cushiony surface on the forest floor. Lots of tiny eyes appear in the forest darkness. We are in the middle of the night, remember? And a tiny arrow flies out of the trees and pierces the gargant's cheek. Another arrow piercing one of his other cheeks. This one not on his face, but on his buttocks. That's right, a pierced butt cheek. A swarm of pygmies appear around the perimeter of the clearing. They edge in slowly, their bows trained on the gargant, who seems to be in some discomfort with the arrows lodged in certain unpleasant locations on his body. The pygmies look to you. It seems like they're waiting for instruction. They're so impressed with your loud and booming battle cry that surely you must be some kind of even more powerful god than anyone previously thought.
This is interesting. Should we appease the giant and maybe use him to our own ends? Or should we attack the giant or flee? I'll give that to the audience. 3 choices.
The audience are in effect the pygmies.
Do you attack the giant? Do you offer the giant some pygmy soup? Or do we run from the giant? Which one?
Yes, I suppose you could potentially use the pygmies as a distraction to escape from the giant. Do you attack the giant, flee from the giant, bargain with the giant? What's it going to be, folks? We've got some suggestions here. Mickey Gender says pygmy soup. Newbie says attack and eat it. Rob Lloyd Sweet says appease the giant and offer to blow its horn. I have given no evidence of the giant owning any kind of musical instrument, so I think we can ignore that one. Dark Adrenaline and Andreas Goodmanson say attack. Let's see, Bazooka J. Rambo says attack. There's a lot of attack going on here, but a few votes for soup as well.
The question is, Andy, do the pygmies have flock on their heads?
A few of them do, not all of them.
That would give them a 6-up ward save. Crucial in determining whether we should attack the giant
Some of them do have quite a head of hair, some of them don't.
With their primitive weapons, so I don't think they're going to pierce the giant's skin.
Well, they do have bows, and those arrows are stuck in the giant's skin. They're not necessarily doing a lot of damage, but they are an annoyance.
But a giant loves to eat and drink, and we all know that pygmy soup, made from their cauldron of sacrifices, could be poisonous to such a creature. So, I shall get the pygmies to bring out the cauldron.
So you want the pygmies to retrieve their cauldron of sacrificial soup.
Yes.
Very well. You're going to give them this instruction, but the communication is difficult. You're kind of using sign language, so you're going to have to roll the dice to see how clear your message is.
Remington! Another 6.
It's a 6. It's uncanny. You're able to perform an interpretive dance, and they understand perfectly exactly what you mean. A couple of the pygmies with flocked heads disappear into the woods and return, wheeling a mighty bubbling cauldron that smells. It would smell delicious if you were perhaps some kind of hideous Nurgle creature, but you're not, so it actually smells rather foul. Whether they intended to eat it or not is anyone's guess, but it's probably only as an offering to the gods that they would never dare have past their own lips. They wheel it before the giant, and then they retreat back to the edge. They still have their bows trained on him, which is why he's not moving, because he knows that turning into a pincushion would not be a good idea. What now? Are you going to instruct the giant to drink the soup and see if he cooperates?
I shall say to the giant, "Oh, mighty giant, drink from this cauldron of life and revive your wounds and weary bones."
Roll the dice. Let's see how convincing you were.
Remington! It's a 5.
That's quite convincing, actually. The giant looks down at you. It smells quite tasty, actually. He reaches down with both hands, picks up the cauldron. The steam comes off his skin a bit where his hands are burning because it's a very hot cauldron. He brings it up to his face, pours it into his mouth, and he seems to be quite enjoying the taste of it. He wipes his mouth. A large splodge of pygmy soup crashes into your cheek.
Oh, no.
And it's not very pleasant smelling, but it's cooled down a bit on its journey through the air from the giant's face. The giant then begins to rub his belly. He seems deeply satisfied by this pygmy soup, and he's not keeling over dead as you would perhaps hoped. In fact, he seems to be more sprightly. He starts flexing his joints. He seems to have a greater range of motion in his arms. His bones aren't quite so creaky anymore. Is it possible that you've perhaps rejuvenated this giant somehow? Just then, from within the forest, you hear the sound trotting along like some kind of equine creature. The pygmies form a line, 2 lines in fact, very, very ceremonial. They still have the bows trained on the giant, and from the forest emerges a sparkling horn. Only one creature in the realms has such a mighty sparkling horn and could explain the rejuvenating nature of the pygmy soup. Cecil, the magical unicorn, majestically gallops between the rows of pygmies towards you. He stops between young Master Remington and the giant, turns to you and says, "Mr. Remington, I hear you've offered my rejuvenating horn juice to this giant. Is this true?"
Yes. He's all right, isn't he?
Do you know how long it takes me to brew that horn juice, Mr. Remington?
I've never experienced your love juice, oh fair unicorn. Might I give it a try?
I think you should roll the dice to see if you can convince Cecil the magical unicorn to squeeze out some juice for you.
Remington. It's a 2.
I'm afraid I'm all juiced out for this evening, Mr. Remington. At this point, the giant is so rejuvenated that he no longer views the pygmies as a threat, and with one backhand sweep, he clears about 10 of them clean off into the forest. They've just been splattered against trees. This giant, he's so invigorated that he just wants to fight.
Oh, God.
What will he do?
Cecil, save me. Can I ride bareback on you?
I think you're going to have to roll the dice again to see if you can convince Cecil to allow you to mount him for battle.
Oh, didn't say for battle. I was going to run away. Okay, here we go. Remington! It's a 4. Average.
Well, you hop up onto Cecil's back. He doesn't seem to be too fussed, really. Are you going to charge headlong at the giant, or are you going to just try and run away and leave the pygmies to deal with it?
I shall leave that as the cliffhanger.
Dun, dun, dun. So there's one for the permanent comments, folks. Later on, if you're watching this later, let us know. What should Remington do? He has mounted Cecil, who is all juiced out for the night. Is he going to attack the giant, or is he going to leave the pygmies to their own fate? And would Cecil go along with it either way? You've got to be pretty convincing to convince Cecil the magical unicorn to do anything. He's a law unto himself, marches to the beat of his own horn. So, one final order of business for tonight. We're going to look at some of the wonderful images that popped up on the old Facebook group, which is, of course, linked in the description below if you're not already a member of that group, where you can post images of your Age of Sigmar miniatures, and we'll look at them. So, this is from Sean Blake, which is a nice spirit host there. Very nice and ghostly, I think you'll agree.
Nice.
I always like to see the different effects people go for on these things, because there's so many different ways of painting ethereal creatures. For this particular one, I would suggest that there's definitely a bit of dry brushing going on the edges, and I think there's some washing going on as well, because there's a bit of darkness in those crevices, isn't there? So I imagine this isn't the most difficult way to paint them, but it looks pretty effective if you ask me. Next up, now this next one looks like it did take an awful long time to paint. This is the ogre from Skeleton Flower. This is actually complete. I think we've looked at this before, but it wasn't finished. So wrap your eyeballs around that.
It's almost like a golem, isn't it? It's got a woody effect on the flesh. It's pretty cool, man.
It is very, very cool indeed. Think how much time that took. Look at all the individual highlights all over it.
Yeah, amazing.
That is insane. Skeleton Flower is a painting maestro. And of course, Skeleton Flower can be seen on Skelevision on the Skeleton Flower YouTube channel, where you can possibly give some input on this wonderful paintwork. Next up, this is from Brand Sirs. I'm going to assume I'm pronouncing that correctly, but and you've been recently inspired by the Empire. So what do you think of these?
Yeah, it's cool. Like could be Kings of War, it could be Warhammer Fantasy, or it could be even Age of Sigmar. You know, you just take them out once you get into the thick of things.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go for you kind of old world themed armies. Now you can make them multi-purpose with this kind of basing.
Yeah, nice, real nice.
Look at that hand drawn banner as well.
Yeah, wicked.
Very, very nice. And also we've got another picture from the same fellow, which is a close up of these banners. Look at that.
Real nice. I love the yellow and black and red color scheme.
That is quite outrageously good, isn't it?
Yeah, they kind of look like if there's like a German football team, you imagine them wearing those colors. It's pretty cool.
Actually. And I like the effect on the little scrolls here. It's not that difficult to do, but I think it looks really good. I've done a similar thing whenever I've painted any kind of scroll work that's supposed to have text on it. You think, well, how am I supposed to do that? It's so tiny. But really, it is just like a series of squiggly lines. And if you use a fine detail brush and get it thin enough, that's the main thing, isn't it?
Nice.
I'm sure you've painted your share of scrolls over the years.
Yeah. I haven't ever painted any Empire models before, though. So, if it's not too late, maybe I could start at some point.
You're inspired now. Right. Well, that's everything we've got to look at for this week. So, how does it feel to be back in the saddle after a week off?
What, in the saddle of the Andy and Rem show? Or in
Yes.
the saddle of... yeah, it's pretty cool. I hope you enjoyed the show. And you'll tune in again next week. And there'll be lots more to talk about.
Indeed, there will. Hopefully, we'll have even more juice that's been leaked, possibly on the old Duardin front. We shall see. If not, then we'll at least have more info on those Zangors, I imagine.
Yeah.
So we'll see exactly what comes in that kit and whether they're advertised as being Age of Sigmar compatible or not, which would be very interesting. Now, I think Rural Goblin wants to know if there's just going to be a show every 2 weeks. Now, for the moment, we think that is the way to go. There are, of course, going to be lots of other videos popping up in the meantime, but I think for this particular show, while we're so light on content and so light on the juicy Age of Sigmar goodness from GW, then I think once every 2 weeks is definitely the way to go, just so we're not struggling to bring you any solid info. I think you agree with that, don't you, Mr. Rem?
Yeah, let's give it a go. Let's give it a go.
We'll give that a try. And then if we're completely inundated with releases all of a sudden, then we can quite feasibly go back to it every single week, can't we?
Yeah.
And you might even, if Mr. Remington has all this free time suddenly, maybe he'll even do one of his famous pillow chat videos.
That had all of like 200 odd views.
Well, I think you'd have slightly more now because you've grown in your celebrity status from all your appearances on this channel.
I guess so, yeah.
And I know for a fact that at least Mickey and Newbie would watch it.
Yeah.
At least. So it'll be 202 views now.
All right, I'll think about it. I'll think about that. But yeah, at the minute, for me, it's all about the total Warhammer. So I think as soon as I paint another miniature, maybe I'll get back into painting. We'll see.
I think you will. And once I get this guy painted up, I think I'll be much more prepared to deal with magic with my Stormcast army. Because playing Stormcast and Duardin mostly in Age of Sigmar, I found that I get pretty much killed to death by magic quite a lot. And there's not a lot they can do about it. So once I've got him painted in there, that's going to be a good start, I think.
Wonderful. Right, I have to go. And there's no more songs.
Time to wrap this up.
No more songs because you've had almost half an album out of me tonight.
No more songs? You mean you can't even give us a quick rendition of the intro or an original outro for all these people after 2 weeks?
Well, maybe you got to give me a scenario, give me a theme, give me a title.
I think you should sing something about potential beards that are maybe made of metal and steam.
Okay.
I think you can do that.
Okay. Here we go. I'll give it a go. And I'll try and look at the comments at the same time so we can get an inspiration.
You get that inspiration flowing in, folks. And while you're inspiring him, it couldn't hurt to like the video, could it?
Thanks for watching, by the way. If I had a beard, I'd grow it in the morning. I'd grow it in the evening. All over my chest. If I had a beard, I'd dye it blonde, and then it would be the best beard, the best beard. If I had a beard, I'd wax that beard, and I'd use beard oil all over this beard to be a giant beard filled with pygmy soup, and then I'd go beard brushing all over this land